The most horrific terrorist act in history. And the Columbine Massacre right here in your backyard. We're going to talk about Columbine tonight. I'll start by referencing a book that I read on this last year. Its name is simply Columbine. The author is Cullen, I forget his first name. And it was kind of a final report to Columbine. Dan Hughley is the FBI agent who profiled those boys after the incident. And so a lot of his final observations are in that book. A lot of his profile details are in that book. So very interesting reading for anyone. Like I said, I read it last year before, and I read for an hour and I cried for an hour. It was very hard to get through this book. It is brutal. It did not leave very much imagination at all. And it started very early, you know. So we're going to talk about the incident tonight. I just want you to draw off of your experiences of the incident and also of the experiences of your life. For example, as a mother, as a student here at PCC. Okay. As somebody who recently graduated, as somebody who was alive during Columbine in high school, right? And people who are parents to older teenagers, things like that. Whatever your experience is, I want you to draw from that. Sociology, guys, is the study of social behavior. Social behavior. So it encompasses so many things. You guys this week have already been out and looked at articles and tried to think, okay, what kind of article am I thinking about getting to? And we talked just briefly about it. Tonight is going to go a little bit easier. Next week's going to probably be a lot easier for you to get an article. Sociology is the study of social behavior. What is that? Give me some examples of social behavior. Go ahead.
Football games.
Football games. What else?
I was going to say
Say again?
traditions, maybe, like
Traditions, absolutely. Christmas time. What else? Parties, very good. Prison system, what did you say?
How people act.
Absolutely. Facebook. Right? Absolutely. Pueblo Mall. Road rage.
Riot.
Riots, absolutely. All of that, guys. Everything, PCC, Learning Center. You know, you sit in here, man. All of it is social behavior. It's your world. What's your social behavior? Think about that for a minute. Me, I'm picking up a kid. Got 255 most days, you know, I'm a student, you know, my social behavior is Walmart twice a week, you know, what that looks like in Canyon City is crazy, you know. I mean, that's social behavior in my world. So for you guys, it's really an individual thing, and then it merges. The dynamic of this classroom is very different from the dynamic of the one at 2 o'clock. Very different. Okay, there's a lot of soldiers in that 2 o'clock class. There is a very young person, very vocal about the issues. There's a couple really political people in that 2 o'clock class. You guys are just a totally different ballgame. You know, and the Tuesday, Thursday class, totally different ballgame even from that. So those are social behaviors. Why should we study that? What's the point? Okay? Why should we think about the behaviors during Columbine? Okay? Is it worth the time? Sociology even. Why bother?
Well, that is sociology when you sit. You
Yeah,
have to study something about society.
Okay. Okay. Can it be changed? Can it be altered? Internet is just a fine example of that. Think about your life 20 years ago, some of you, when the internet was not a hero. I know! Isn't that weird? Guys, my phone is just a phone. It doesn't do anything else. So what? I don't have any flat televisions in my house. My boyfriend's like, what? It's bizarre, you know, mostly because I don't know, I never watch TV. I'm always in a book somewhere. That really lies. But, you know, it's just, the internet completely changed society, didn't it? It completely turned it around. Think about that for a second. Does anybody in here not have a cell phone? Wow. I mean, isn't it? Right, everybody's like. Okay, yeah. I mean, it was uncommon to have a phone. Remember when car phone was like the coolest thing?
I'm not even sure if you're aware of this, but you don't even have to go to the store to do your shopping anymore. Like, you can have groceries delivered to you, or like stuff like that.
Dude, I am the woman who despises Walmart.
Yeah, but if you're in Canyon City, that's all you got though.
I don't do anything to avoid it. I'll go to Alto. I don't care. I'll go to dollar stores to get everything I can.
So I just moved up from Canyon. You don't got much of a choice. Walmart's pretty much it.
Maybe buy it in Pueblo by the time you get over there, it's all defrosted or.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is about Canyon is everybody, you know, gosh, it's just like, how you doing, come on in. Everybody in Canyon City hangs out at the Walmart store, eh? You see somebody there, hey, how you doing? They got nothing in their cart. You see somebody there, hey, there's nothing in their cart. You know?
That is true, though.
It's insane. So and plus, you know, it's a small town, so it takes you 2.5 hours to get out of there. Hey, how you doing? You have a 15-minute conversation here, and 10 minutes over here, and a 15-minute conversation over here. You're checking in with everybody. Yeah. I mean, think about no Walmart store.
Oh my gosh,
That would be great, actually. I would love it. I hate Walmart.
Isn't it bizarre to think about that now? Now it's even weird to us that wouldn't be. Remember the Piggly Wiggly? Anybody alive in that?
I've seen one.
I mean, Walmart's been around most of my life.
Yeah.
You know, but now it's such a Facebook. It's such a staple of society now that it's almost a completely different world again, doesn't it? In 10 years, you know. And so yeah, it can be changed in all of this. We had that comment last class. There's nothing we can do about that. There's nothing we can do about that. There are going to be crazy people out there. There's nothing you can do about that. Okay. So I just want let's consider a huge sociological event, the Columbine Massacre, okay, tonight. And why we study social media. Why should we even care about this, okay? Columbine was an interesting profile because of those boys. People's parents. Do you know that they were good little boys? They were little soccer guys. They went to the prom that year that they killed all those people. They had jobs at the pizza place. You know, they were just run-of-the-mill, everyday boys. Which is 99% of the population. Okay. You know, they're wild, crazy little guys running around. You know, not suddenly and significantly catching to the eye in any one way or another. Not really. A lot of people got that information. Oh, they're in trench coats or trench coat mafia and stuff, and the truth is that when they really profiled those boys, there wasn't anything dramatically significant that would draw your eye. Their families were very, you know, mid-level society. Both parents married on both sides. Good job, you know, middle class, nice family. Nothing there. The boys had gotten in trouble in the year that had occurred. They were They were blowing stuff up. How many of you ever like to blow stuff up? They were doing a little of that, got in trouble. They were out in sticks like we all used to, and they got in trouble. And they were actually on probation. They got into trouble with the law was watching them, guys. They were under the surveillance of the law. On probation and sentenced to therapy the entire year before their massacre. One of them was clearly a sociopath. What do I mean when I say sociopath?
All there's the only reason why they have interactions with other humans is to get something from it.
Okay.
They don't really share the same emotions as other people, and they certainly don't divulge that to other people. It's vulnerable.
What do we know about Ted Bundy?
The serial killer.
Yeah,
Very charismatic and
very charismatic.
everybody likes him.
Yeah, he was a big time lady.
He was a great,
Right.
he wasn't cool.
Yes, he was probably the poster child for sociopath. And, charming, very charming, very intelligent. So not what you would think of, right? We think of Dahmer, weird guy, he's right, weird, yeah. But no. In his profiling, usually really defines him as a sociopath, one of the little, I think Harris, I'm not certain. And he, the other thing about those boys is they journaled like crazy the entire year for that matter. Isn't that interesting? Some of the most horrific stories of our world, the people who did those things were, they would journal and write everything down like a forecast, like a novel before it happened. And these boys did that in video, in written journals, in pictures that they drew, and so much information on the list. So much. And in all of that writing, they found statements from him like this. I went to therapy today. That dumb bitch. She thinks I'm an angel. And they confirmed that in her report. This boy is an angel. He's improving. He's doing so well. You know? And so, the other boy was suicidal. He had very low self-esteem, but they don't define him as a sociopath at all. In fact, after reading that book, I wonder if he would have done anything at all if he had not been associated with the other. He was a follower. I mean, almost entirely. And had some trouble with the lady, had some broken heart issues there, esteem issues. Go ahead.
I was going to say, there was a pair of serial killers that operated the same way, like in the late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah.
One of them was a follower and the other was a sociopath,
Yeah.
and he pretty much did what the other said. And he was the one that, when they got caught, he did a cyanide pill while they were grilling him. And so they didn't get any info out of him, and the other guy took 10 years to finally pin him down and put him in prison for the murders that they committed together. But they operated the same way as Siebold and Harris.
Right.
One pretty much told the other what to do, and the other was so weighed down that he just did it without even questioning.
Yeah, and so tragic, because I don't believe that he would have done anything. I really don't, after reading that. Anyway, the boys, they are journaling and making plans. This Harris kid, I believe, he starts making some clear plans. And they start testing everyone around them. In fact, they had journals. I took that weapon, rifle, I believe. I took it to school today to see if my parents would notice me taking it out of the house. I took it under my coat, and they didn't see it. I took it to my locker. They tested all around, and they're writing about that. Testing, everywhere. And so, gosh, you know, there was so much to that. There were so many little potential interceptions. There were so many damaging things, like when they decided to go on and get those weapons. You know that they didn't buy those weapons themselves, that somebody bought those weapons for them. They acquired them in different manners, but primarily through a gun show. Raise your hand if somebody ever bought you a pack of cigarettes. Or a case of it, right? Not incredibly unusual behavior there for a young kid. And then I wanted to show you something about how they did that. They made many bombs. They did that primarily with the external bombs, with propane bottles, like you would use for your barbecue. And actually, they went out into the community and set a lot of bombs out in the community with the idea that they would detonate those bombs and draw the police out into the community away from the school, so that no one would respond to the school for a while. And so that was the plan. And then they also set many bombs inside of the school, right? Their idea, guys, was kind of like a fatal funnel. Any soldiers in here? Okay. There's a big parking lot outside. And one boy basically was parking here, one here, in their cars. They both in Harris in their cars. And the idea was that they were going to set all those bombs off inside the school. And the survivors would try and get out this door or this door. And as they came out, the boys in their car would pick them off with their rifles and kill everyone. That was the idea. Now what happened was, nothing worked. Nothing worked. I mean, there was really only one bomb, I think, that was a threat in the community. And they intercepted it. The bomb got intercepted before it was detonated. So there wasn't any kind of draw like they had planned. Then there was a bomb that was, one or two actually, that went off inside of the school at Plant. And it sets off commotion, right? And there's shrapnel in the commons area, and the sprinklers are going off. And there was commotion, but not nearly what they wanted. In fact, many students had no idea really what was going on. They were kind of, you know, they kind of wandering around, chaos a little bit. And they start wandering out. A few of them wander out, and the boys are in their cars. And they're like, oh, crap. So they finally say, let's just go. Let's go in. So they get out of their cars, and they kind of meet up, and they go up the lawn. And they start picking people up off the lawn. And then they go into Columbine, and they get into that library. They go through to get into the library. Okay? That's ultimately what happened there. Okay? Now, after the wave of Columbine, there was a lot of blame that was thrown. And people were just desperate for someone to blame, which is common in tragedy, right? People, especially if that have lost their babies. So let's talk about this. Whose fault, in your mind, answering honestly, what's your answer to that question? I don't want you to give me a textbook classroom answer. I want you to think about, I'm a mom, and this is how I feel about this kind of thing. This is what happened there. I want you to answer like that. Let's hear some comments. Right here.
I don't think it's one particular person's fault. You know, you can't really blame the parents, because as a society, you know, we should be aware of our surroundings and what's going on. You know, the parents are at fault for not knowing what's going on in their household. You know, there's a lot of signs there, like you said, they were drilling. You know, a concerned parent would get involved and look and see what's going on, what their child's into, what are they doing, what are their habits. Me being a parent myself, I know that I'm gonna go into my child's room and, you know, not be so much nosy and go through everything, but, you know, I want to know what's going on, you know.
Yeah.
That's a concerned parent. That's what a parent should do.
How many of you ever thought to yourself, I hope I'm not raising so many babies. I hope that never happens to me, you know? I mean, that has crossed my mind. Oh, I hope she doesn't take a wrong direction. I hope, you know, she can stay. What is the recipe for that, right? Have you thought that? Go ahead.
Wasn't part of the reason for them doing that is because they were both
There was, that was actually a very minor part. Very little. That was interesting. The media really took this and ran with it in many directions. Trench coat mafia, things like that, which actually did not exist.
They weren't
It wasn't really applicable to this situation at all.
Well, when I think kids wearing those trench coats, right away I thought of the trench coat
Doesn't it make you think of Columbine?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
What about media bringing Maryland dancing?
Oh, gosh,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Okay, and bullying, right, there's so much bullying, right, hot topic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, right away we think, oh, God, they were driven to it. Which actually, there was certainly victims that they took as a result of relationships that they had. Some of the profiles of the victims. They had not like romantic relations, but they had words between them, for example, but not what you think in your mind or what I thought. I thought that too. There was so much information, right, that came out of Columbine that, and actually now, even more prevalent than then, bullying, all these suicides as a result of bullying, and you think they must have been driven to it. It's interesting. Go ahead.
Well, where the fault lies, it should lie with Siebold and Harris, because ultimately they were the ones that pulled the trigger. Like, I liked my parents about things I did when I was a teenager. I didn't tell them everything I was doing. They didn't know I was smoking. They didn't know I was dating. I played violent video games. I did a lot of the same stuff that Siebold and Harris did when they were that age. And I didn't go off to massacre at school, though, but they ultimately had a choice if they could do it or they could not, and they made the choice to do it, and that's where the fault lies.
Okay.
Like, the parents only know so much of what the kid is telling them, and parents do want to
Yes. It's so
respect their child's privacy and not go through their things if they don't have to, but,
Mhm.
like, my parents went through my stuff, and I had a floorboard, I hid the stuff they didn't want to see.
Oh.
And it's just, we're not honest to our parents as kids, and that's the nature of teenagers, so nobody really knows what could have been prevented because they didn't really tell anybody. It was kept between the two of them.
Okay.
When I heard, I thought Rosie, and then I thought they were gay together, and they were harassed for it.
They were gay?
Yeah, for
No.
gay. And then-
No. In fact, Harris had a lot of his pressure, a lot of his anger, was as a result of a relationship that he had with a young girl, and it was ending. And so he got a lot of stress from that. And then really profile her in that book. They really dig deep into her to try to get information about him after the massacre. And her parents really bought it, right? There was actually she had been dating another person, and there were death threats on that other person, and that invoked the law on Harris a little bit. So he was being monitored because of that also. But no criminal charge to anything like that. Go ahead.
So they were in psychiatry,
They were in therapy.
and a lot of the adult violence,
Was it
counselor,
therapy?
That's what I think.
Okay. Go ahead on your thoughts. I mean, let's hear some of your thoughts about it.
Like when my father passed away, my therapist actually asked me to keep a journal. And I would write, daily. But she never asked what I wrote in the journal.
Okay.
So I'm like, why do you want me to write the journal? I would think that therapists should ask what you're writing in the journal, or maybe, they can't look at it because it's confidential.
Well, they can. They can't share it. They could never share it because of the ethical dilemma that's created there, but yeah, they could themselves. But, and they actually did have them do a similar exercise to what you're saying. But there was just really no honesty in it at all. It was kind of, they just manipulated it. And actually, I actually learned, I had not remembered that from the reading, I'm not even sure if it was in there, but Harris was on prescription medication and was pregnant. And so he was medicated, so then the discussion arises, was the medication, did it drive in a positive direction or a negative direction? Yeah, so that's a question. That's a question, was he driven to that, or could it have been worse? You know, there's all kinds of directions that you can go here with a fault, with a blame. Go ahead.
The thing I don't understand is, you know, if they were hearing textbook answers from the psychologist's point of view, wouldn't they think they would observe them in their natural setting versus, you know, go based off what they're saying? Because of course, about 50% of the time, any teenager will lie to any adult, doesn't matter who it is or what it is about, they'll lie about it just because of their butt about anything that happens.
Okay, glad you said that, because we're gonna go in that direction. Just a second, let's get a couple more comments that we're waiting. Go ahead. Did you have something?
No.
Okay, go ahead.
I think everybody though, when they have problems every day, needs to do that.
Okay. All right, good, guys, good.
Can I say something real quick?
Sure.
I was living in Denver at that time,
Mm-hmm.
and I was working for a company called Corporate Express at the time. I was delivering office computer supplies, and I had stopped at a stop which was right. Not that wasn't my route. Columbine wasn't my route, but I had stopped at a stop that was like I-25 in Colorado. It was a business, and I remember it exactly. I mean, like if it was because I was, you know, I wasn't there at the shooting, but I was living in Denver at the time, and I walked through an office, and these people were watching it on TV because it was happening.
Yes.
And so my next stop was South High School, which was in Denver, which was like around University, or around DU area.
Okay.
And I remember backing up my truck into the driveway at South in their delivery area, and cops just swarmed that high school. It was as it was you know, it was happening. They didn't know if originally they thought it was grown men that were doing that or something like.
Oh,
And they
gosh,
thought that
the
it was going
follow-up
to be.
was very tough.
They thought that it was going to be a bunch of retaliations towards other schools.
Yeah.
So I backed my truck up to the dock area, and the cops 5 minutes later pull up and just don't even tell me why or what. I knew something was going on at Columbine, but.
That's perfect, too, don't do that. You guys are just forecasting everything tonight.
So I remember specifically that night, I got up at 3:30, and I went home, and they were saying, like, I think 64 people dead.
Oh.
64 people died. You know how originally when news
Yes.
happened, and I sat down and watched TV until 11 o'clock that night, because I was just in such awe of,
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
one of my buddies who worked for the same company, that was his route, and he actually had a delivery to the school that day, but the Columbine called and canceled their delivery.
Yeah.
So
Huh.
it's just crazy to think that he could have been there, or he would have been sick, and they would have handed me the delivery ticket, and if they wouldn't have canceled it, you know, I mean, it was just crazy, because
Yeah.
I was actually delivering 2 high schools that day, that just wasn't on my route, so.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, when the people were talking about how the psychologist should have noticed, like, textbook answers or something. One of the things I've learned, I've been in the program for about 3 semesters now, and we've studied things like this. One of the things I've learned is that generally, before people do things like kill themselves or other people, they act really, really happy. Like, they act like, oh, everything's just fine and peachy,
They're finally at peace.
and then they're killing people. So it's a little hard to just say, well, I mean, because you can't prove their happiness from someone who's really happy. So.
That's going to be happy too. Let's go down this road a little bit, guys. Let me tell you a little bit more, and then we're going to go down the alternative side. And it's very close to what you're talking about here. After there was reports, kids were flooding out of Columbine, right? And parents are intercepting them, police were showing up. There was a huge response of law enforcement to Columbine. Huge! And many agencies came in. There was confusion there because of the communication sharing among agencies. We've learned a lot from Columbine. They've really improved. They didn't know how many shooters there were. Nobody did. The students were like, oh, what the hell's going on here? Right there, just running out. If they were shocked, they didn't know. They didn't know what happened. They had no idea. They knew a bomb or something went off in that school. They knew people were being shot at, and it wasn't there. They knew that.